For many Americans, homeownership is still viewed, 1. as a central component of living out the American dream, but the ways, 2. that many present-day Americans are pushing back, 3. on modern living arrangements closely, 4. resemble what, 5. came centuries, even millennia, before in other parts of the world. Offering portions of the venture to such a great number of investors through crowdfunding is almost by definition a common enterprise. Although, 1. the gathering of fish in schools is a familiar form of animal social behavior, 2. how the schools is formed and maintained is only beginning to be understood in detail. 3. It had been thought that each fish maintains its position chiefly by means of vision. Our work has shown that the lateral line, an organ sensitive to transitory changes in water displacement, 4. is as important as vision. One likely explanation for Grubb's neglect is that his initial success with X-ray treatments may have given him false confidence about his understanding of how radiation affects tissues. He was working under a false premise, but his arrogance equals conceit made him bold, with regard to his patient's health and with his own. Theories of how the mind/brain works, 1. have been dominated for centuries by two opposing views. 1. Rationalism sees the human mind as, 2. coming into the world more or less, 3. fully formed, in modern terms. The other, empiricism, sees, 4. the mind of the newborn as, 5. largely unstructured, a blank slate. The textile collection amassed by Bess has traditionally been seen as a conspicuous, salient attempt to display her wealth and position herself at the top of Tudor society, but the latest project suggests the reality is more nuanced. The researchers say the textiles represent an expression of Bess's creative ingenuity. I think about what it must have been, 1. like for my parents at this moment. They must have felt the shock of finality, of realizing, 2. what was happening could not be revised. Wherever they, 3. ended up, they wouldn't know the language. The life they knew was over and they had only a dim sense of, 4. what the future held. Dreaming is a mental activity, 1. associated with the rapid eye movement, REM, period of sleep. It is, 2. commonly made up of visual images expressed in terms of seeing rather than in, 3. those of the other senses. Electroencephalograph studies, 4. measuring equals which measures, the electrical activity of the brain during REM sleep, have shown that young adults dream for about 2 hours of every 8-hour period of sleep. The film's opening act introduces the Kim family, folding pizza boxes in a squalid basement apartment in Seoul and scrambling from room to room, 1. in search of free Wi-Fi after the neighboring business locked theirs down with a password. In a single scene the film appears to articulate its title and define its central characters, but the Kims are not, 2. who you think they are. In fact, every time you think you've pinned this film down, 3. who's doing what to whom, who is or is not a parasite, you learn it was an impeccably executed sleight of hand. Longtime Bong collaborator Kang Ho-sung, 4. anchors the film with an endearing and slippery performance. Archaeologists in England have uncovered an Anglo-Saxon cemetery consisting of more than 80 graves, 1. dating from the 7th to the 9th century CE. The discovery is notable in that it is the time in Britain that wooden coffins from the Anglo-Saxon period have been found in a well-preserved state. Wood usually disintegrates quickly when it, 2. is buried, but the waterlogged conditions at the site in Greek Ryburg, near Norfolk, kept wooden structures intact. The dead, 3. are mostly buried in coffins made from the hollowed-out trunks of oak trees. 4. a few other graves are lined with wooden planks. The discovery promises to shed new light on the lives of early Christian Anglo-Saxon communities. Apple's expansion reflects the increasing completion for engineers in Silicon Valley. They, 1. bidding for programmers is driving salaries higher, which in turn is, 2. catapulting the average prices of homes in many parts of the San Francisco Bay Area above $1 million. Many high-tech workers are thus, 3. choosing to live elsewhere, causing major tech employers such as Apple and Google, 4. to look in new places for the employees they need. No matter how generally motivated you are, all of us have some tasks, 1. that we don't want to do. Maybe we find them boring, pointless, time-consuming, annoying, or anxiety-producing. So, 2. how do you get moving in these types of situations? The first step is to recognize that getting motivated doesn't mean that you have to experience a particular feeling, like excitement or anticipation. Instead, motivation is simply one or more reasons you have, 3. for acting in a certain way. You can decide to do something without ever getting excited about it by finding, 4. a personally meaningful why. One focused on calling out what many viewers see as egregious equals flagrant, age erasing, the promotion of women age 58, 57, 54, and 53 as paragons of mature beauty whose years have seemingly been smoothed from their faces. Those creators will have a harder time bringing cases against systems that were trained on their work yet don't closely imitate it. A judge's recent decision dismissing part of a copyright lawsuit brought by comedian Sarah Silverman and others against Meta bears this out. Vindicates, as if I were an excited child on a weekend outing with my father, I clambered up to the top deck for a better view, sheepishly, timorously, claiming the front seat with its unobscured prospect. The National Trust, which owns or manages hundreds of country estates and great country houses, was established a century ago on the rising nostalgia for a lost rural paradise. Because so many properties are great houses, it can pander, indulge, to a sense of deference to the great landed families. Today, migrants are the producers of an enormous digital almanac, yearbook, of the trek to the United States, documenting the route and its pitfalls in such detail that, in a few stretches, people can find their way their own, without smugglers. In 1927, the British novelist Eleanor Glyn published a short story in Cosmopolitan magazine that would define the then nascent, burgeoning, culture of celebrity. Glyn's story explored the concept of it, the mysterious, indescribable, possibly magical quality that stars and other screen luminaries have and ordinary people don't. Most of us don't even try to get our kids to order the apple slices. The number of kids who ordered apple slices jumped from 2 to 10. We all know children can be stubbornly habitual in what they want to eat. Consideration of what a well-liked person would do makes us less indulgent. No sooner had I sleep than I started to snore. There is not the least snow on the road. A whale is no more a fish than a dog is. Mt. Everest is tallest among all mountains. No less than half the students failed the exam. The hotel was very welcoming. We very much agree with the decision. The new bypass was very much needed. I was very much surprised by her news. I much prefer seeing films at the cinema than on TV. John is certain to please. It turns out that he can't come. He is apt to complain about something. Edith happens to enjoy my company. John is a real pleasure to work with. Macroeconomics is more difficult than sociology. Part of the students were absent from school. A lot of people have come to see her. Most of the semester was spent in the lab. Bread and butter is her main diet. People who are more susceptible to stress are people who manage better in the competition for survival, and are thus believed to be our ancestors.